Joining us live now is former visiting scholar of the Harriman Institute at Columbia University, Gilbert Doctorow. Professor, you're most welcome. Thank you for your time today. What do you make of the timing of this decision by the French president? Is it coordinated with the long-range missile announcements by Chancellor Merz, today's announcement by Donald Trump of tariffs? Is there a link there?
Well, they are. All these issues, of course, are interrelated. I think with respect to Macron, he's never seen a microphone in front of him that he didn't want to grab and use. And this was, of course, a good opportunity for him because it is, after all, 14th of July, Bastille Day. It is a national holiday and a time of celebration for the Frenchmen and women. And he used this to make his patriotic pitch. But let's put this in the context. I think it's very, very appropriate that you mentioned Chancellor Merz, because after all, the tandem of France and Germany have been the leading powers within the European Economic Community, as it was till 1992, and within the European Union, as it is today. The economic side, the production side, was traditionally the forte, the strength of Germany, and diplomacy, international positioning was the strength of France. Of course, France in the last 15 years or so has become much weaker in every respect. It's had a succession of incompetent and poorly supported presidents, of which Macron is the latest example, with very low popularity ratings. And so France has lost a lot of its feathers as the lead diplomatic power of the European Union, while Germany was picking this up and moving into an area that it had traditionally avoided because of the recollections of World War II, of the Hitler period, and Germany did not want to come out front as the power in Europe. Well, all of those reservations have, of course, been overturned. Germany now does not acknowledge any guilt for the sins of the grandparents of those in power today. And it has no qualms about getting up on a soapbox and teaching the rest of the world, and particularly teaching the big neighbor to the east, how to live. That is to say, they are very quick to castigate Russia. So the fact that Germany has been announcing in the last few days, Mr. Merz has said that Germany will be the dominant military force in Europe. Of course, that wiles the French. Of course, that is an incentive to Mr. Macron to come out and say, oh, we're going to raise our military budget ahead of schedule. What we said would be achieved in 2030, we will now achieve in 2027. Of course, the 64 billion euros budget that Mr. Macron is announcing is about 30–40% below the budget of Germany today, which Mr. Merz has just appropriated. And that is the basic military budget, defense budget in Germany. It doesn't address the question of the 1 trillion euros in investment in German military manufacturing, infrastructure, and so forth. So Germany is way out in front. Mr. Macron is trying to grab a little bit of attention to remind the world, remind Europe, that France is still important.
And the bombastic statements this Bastille Day didn't end there. He also said freedom has, quote, not been so threatened and so seriously since 1945, adding that there has been removal of the framework that was defined after the Second World War. We will have to take those remarks in the context, however, of a leader of a country involved in multiple foreign inventions, don't we?
Yes, well, I come back to the remarks that J.D. Vance delivered at the Munich Security Conference in February. The biggest threat to security in France, as in the rest of Europe, is internal, domestic. It is the authoritarianism of people like Mr. Macron. For the French president is essentially an uncrowned king. You can't get rid of him. That is the only reason that he is in power today. Because if it were left to the will of the French people, he would be out on the street where he belongs. So it's an abuse of the French Constitution that this man speaks for France, because most everything that he is doing, both domestically and on the international affairs, has little or no backing in French political life.
He seems to think he has a plan for it, though. The call for an increase in defence spending comes as the country is over €3 trillion in debt. In your view, sir, do you consider Macron's plan to finance costs through, quote, more activity and more production? Is that viable?
Well, these are wonderful things to say. It's like it's the same level of empty rhetoric as the statements that because of the American tariffs, we will have to find new markets. Well, you can say that to journalists who are tame pets. But for any thinking person who knows something about the way the world works, you don't find new markets from one day to the next. That takes years and years. And I put these statements by Macron in every parameter as being of the same empty rhetoric. But why not? This is, after all, Bastille Day. You open the champagne, and maybe you turn off the radio and stop listening to Macron and enjoy life.
Right. Notably, this also comes following an earlier statement by the French army chief who called Russia a, quote, lasting and close threat, essentially proposing a military solution to France's national interest. But does that smack of double standards somewhat? Why is Russia, for example, not given the same grace when it comes to its security concerns surrounding its region vis-a-vis the Ukraine conflict?
Well, what Mr. Macron is saying, what his colleagues are saying domestically in France, is perfectly aligned with what von der Leyen is saying here in Brussels in the European institutions. They need an enemy. They need an enemy to hold on to power. They are there not because they have plans to implement for the prosperity of the nations of Europe. They are there for one reason only, to keep their hands on the power. And the power can be kept if you declare an enemy and a urgent national need for strong leadership to take us into the proper posture to face up to that enemy. That is the whole logic. NATO is based on that. And since NATO and the European Union have become virtually intertwined and synonymous, thanks to the efforts of Madame von der Leyen during her time as president of the Commission, it is understandable that an enemy for Europe is needed, and Russia fits the bill.
Professor Gilbert Doctorow, former visiting scholar of the Harriman Institute at Columbia University. Always a pleasure, sir. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.